How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Well, it's Tuesday here on this program, and you know what that means. We got Raw to talk about from Monday night, and incredibly, I am here on video. If you guys had any idea how we barely make it on the air every single time we do this show. But anyway, here I am. Beautiful Cannon Beach, Oregon. Celebrating Tuesday here. The Raw Report is noted. And a lot of other news as well. I wasn't here yesterday. I presume Mike talked about everything. But if not, we got plenty to talk about. Not the least of which is the last note of the Raw show. Bruce Pritchard, now the interim head of talent relations for WWE. John Laurinaitis on administrative leave, which we figured would happen as a result of the situation with Vince McMahon, the WWE board, etc. We've got SmackDown ratings. We've got Rampage ratings. I will not talk for 30 minutes about Rampage ratings, but we will discuss that here today. We've got Forbidden Door. We got some new matches. Not necessarily a new match, but a new participant in one of the matches we already know about. And one of the matches that we were expecting, I don't think is going to happen, so we'll tell you about that. We have also got the return of Kushida. We've got notes from WWE Main Event and plenty more. Today, we'll take your feedback. If you'd like to contact us, 425-780-7566 is the phone number. That is 425-780-7566. Brian at WrestlingObserver.com, at Bryan Alvarez on Twitter. And yes, everybody, F4W Online on Cameo. Have you gotten your Cameo? I'm doing them from the shores of the Pacific Ocean this week. Quite a deal for just $35, so check it out. I'll be back in a moment with Sempervive and more. Wrestling Observer Live.
AEW's Brody King compilation.
They were not they weren't renewing any contracts that were coming up, and they weren't discussing it with anybody. You know, my contract was going to be renegotiated in December, and it was about October, I think, when it was like when everything kind of shut down, October, November, and they hadn't said anything to me, and I know a few others that they hadn't said anything to, and I was like, well, that seems strange that like they have all these big players that they probably would want to keep with their deals coming up, and nobody's discussing it with them. So it was like, I feel like a lot of people maybe wanted to pretend like that wasn't the case, but you know, if you look at it in a business standpoint, that's probably not a good sign. And yeah, I don't know. It just seemed like that, you know, especially since we were doing shows with crowds again, the crowds weren't great, and there's only so much you can do with a big roster with a lot of money and not a lot of people in the crowd. So, I mean, like when the news for Ring of Honor broke, I feel like Malachi, Tom, and I had already been discussing this House of Black dream scenario of like, what if, and you know, if it could happen, and how to kind of get the wheels moving on that. And I think that we were already discussing like possibly trying to do like PWG, like trying to like set the groundwork for it. So it was very much like in the works already, and we had already been, you know, discussing like the what ifs and what we could do with it, and like bouncing ideas off each other. But I talked to Tony very shortly after the news from Ring of Honor broke, and you know, he invited me out to a couple of the shows, and we discussed things, and that's when the whole House of Black idea really came to fruition. And you know, it seemed like a good fit, and everything kind of fell into place. So I was very fortunate that like I kind of had a plan already, and it just kind of was an easier decision. You know, there wasn't like, well, do I stay at Ring of Honor or do I go to AEW? Like, it was like, well, there's no more Ring of Honor, so here we go. I hate doing the blackout like reveal, because I just have this fear that I'm just gonna fall and like break my neck on the way to the ring, and like they're gonna restore the lights, and I'm like, you know, unconscious on the floor. Did my Ring of Honor debut, it was pitch black in the ECW arena, and it was like me running down the ramp and hoping that I just didn't eat it on the way. So it's not my favorite way to debut, but you know, it makes for a good reveal. The crowd was chanting my name when the lights went out, because Malachi had set all these like Easter eggs about me coming in, and then you know, afterwards I think it was Sting came out to me. He's like, man, that was awesome, like you guys have such a cool look together, like you guys look so intense. I was just like, you're fucking Sting, like this is sick. Like,
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. How'd it go yesterday? Need I ask?
It went just fine, actually.
What disaster happened? Anything?
No disasters.
Really?
Everything was perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Producer Dom was playing some cookout music because of the long weekend. It was a fantastic time that we had.
He played cookout music? What does that even mean? Like there were sizzling steaks in the background?
He actually surprised. He played the Gap Band's Outstanding, you know, something you would hear at a picnic in the summertime. I guess not picnics with you, because those, I guess, what are those like? You just sit there and yell at everybody for like not pulling out the tablecloth correctly to lay on the ground? Yell at them for forgetting your steak. They didn't pack your steak. Jesus. I like how you took the day off. You had no idea. You didn't even tell anybody you were taking the day off to skip to the beach, where people can now give you money for cameos.
Bro, on Friday, I told you had the show by yourself on Monday. I literally,
You
the
didn't say
last
why.
segment of the show, I told you Monday was all yours.
Didn't
Why does
say
it
why.
matter?
I'm just.
Well, I came here. I did cameos. I worked hard here on, quote, vacation. All for you, the lovely listeners of Wrestling Observer Live. And I have news for you today,
Oh, yeah?
listeners. If you didn't listen to Observer Radio last night, or you didn't make it through 30 minutes on Rampage, I pointed out, so Bruce Pritchard has been named interim head of talent relations of WWE, as John Laurinaitis has been placed on administrative leave. PW Insider reported WWE issued a memo to talent, which is funny, actually, because you know who usually issues those memos to talent? John Laurinaitis. I don't think that he signed this one. They issued a memo to talent. Pritchard is a new head of talent relations going forward. Quote, pending the conclusion of WWE's board of directors' internal investigation. Laurinaitis has been placed on administrative leave. The memo additionally promises Pritchard would provide a, quote, seamless transition. I wonder what Pritchard would say if you asked him about that. Laurinaitis was not backstage at Raw. Him and Vince under investigation by the board over a $3 million hush money agreement by a former employee who allegedly had a sexual relationship with both men. McMahon voluntarily stepped down as CEO and chairman. I'm sure it was voluntary. While the investigation takes place, Stephanie's been named interim CEO and chairwoman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the point I made last night, which I can't help but repeat here on the show, and I hate repeating my material, but it ties into SmackDown, actually, where we had SummerSlam coming up, and SummerSlam was supposed to be Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, by the way, who has been there for 20-something years. We just celebrated his 20th year. He was going to headline SummerSlam for the title. So it's going to be Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns. Randy Orton needs back surgery. And so as a result, they did this Matt Riddle match on SmackDown, which we can talk about later. And Roman Reigns won. Riddle can now not get another shot as long as Roman Reigns is champion. And since Randy Orton is out, well, who do we have to replace Randy Orton in a match with Roman Reigns at SummerSlam? Well, what preparations have we done? Who do we have ready? Well, there's Drew McIntyre, but he's already going to be at the Castle show, the Clash at the Castle or whatever. So with him, let's see. We got, goddamn, we got to go back to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the 7th time on a major WWE pay-per-view because we have nobody ready. Well, this reminds me of when Vince McMahon stepped down as chairman and CEO. Well, who do we have to replace Vince McMahon? Who do we got ready to step in as chairman and CEO? Something were to happen to Vince McMahon. Let's see, not Triple H, he's out of the picture. You know what? Let's go with Stephanie, who we just buried in a nationally published article. That's a great person. We got a lot of, we really prepared for the, world beyond Vince. Let's bring back Stephanie. Now, John Laurinaitis has to step away. Who do we have to step in as the head of talent relations? Well, we fired that Carano guy. And, you know what? Bruce Pritchard is now the head of talent relations. This company has zero ability to prepare for the future. They got nobody ready for anything. They got nobody ready for Laurinaitis to replace him. They got nobody ready to replace Vince McMahon. They got nobody ready to replace Roman Reigns. They got nothing except to go back to the same old, same old. So anyway, that to me is a takeaway from this Bruce Pritchard story. They just got nobody. They got nobody for any position. It's incredible.
If anybody was listening to you right now that was a stockholder, that would sound like a forward-looking thing that they would have problems, except anybody that's a stockholder, at least of major value and holds a major amount of stock, They seemingly don't care about any of that, Brian. And here's the thing with Vince. You can't actually replace him right now. Stephanie has right now because that's what he wants. The same way he wants Bruce Pritchard to assume Johnny Ace's role in the interim because he's comfortable with those people. But we have seen where Nick Khan, and there are legitimate people on that board who have run legitimate industries that, in theory, can take over the corporate reins of that company. So you're right, that they don't have people stacked. But in theory, there's the shakeup there. There could be people in those positions. Those are corporate-filled positions. Creatively, that's a little bit of a different story. No Charlotte, now no Cody, no Sasha, no Randy Orton. You have nobody else. You go back to either who. It's either Lashley or it's McIntyre. Those two guys are tied up right now. Or it's Brock Lesnar. And as soon as the news came out about Randy Orton, it was just a matter of time. And they went and pulled that trigger on Friday. And that whole show worked for Vince, with him starting it off. And then ultimately that getting the number that it did at the end and getting the retention that it did. Roman Reigns is a star. Brock Lesnar is about the only other star that you have. Let's see if they can ride that number and ride any excitement they can out of that. But for a lot of people, it's better than a lot of other options. But, man, you've seen this thing so many times. How exactly are you going to make this new?
Maybe it'd be a good time to work on grooming somebody to take over creative because, man, if something actually happened to Vince, like we replace Vince with a figurehead chairman and CEO, which, by the way, somebody asked me, remember when they had that, hold on, remember when they had that Iron Man match with the women? And, instead of calling it a Iron Woman match, they called it the Women's Iron Man match. Is she the chairwoman or is she the women's chairman? I think that we need to get that clear. But anyway, so she is now in this figurehead position, as the women's chairman and CEO of this company. But Vince is still doing all of his Vince stuff. So, like, if something happened, if Vince went to the moon, who is Jeff Jarrett? Bruce Pritchard? Are we going to bring back Eric Bischoff? Is Paul Heyman going to get a chance without Vince screwing everything up for him? Like, who do we have if something went down tomorrow?
It depends on who lobbies best to whose ear. Because if there's a shakeup like that, obviously Kevin Dunn, Bruce Pritchard, that old guard is going to want to have some say. How strong is Triple H and any allegiances he has? Shawn Michaels, who's with him? Adam Pearce, is he related with someone? Because he could be a good booker or working as an assistant at J.J. Dillon to somebody's Dusty. You know what I mean? As an assistant. So where does he lie? There are people that can take the throne. It's just going to be a matter of who's in charge, because if it's Stephanie, she may tend to rely maybe on the old guard, but probably on her husband and whoever's actually affiliated with him. That's who gets those roles.
Back in a moment, everybody. Observer Live.
AEW is Brody King Q&A Part 1. Question number 1. What would you consider the craziest thing you've ever done?
Went to a drag bar and had a lip sync contest against the Drag King. So that's a pretty good one.
What songs did you sing?
Bad Romance by Lady Gaga.
Yes. I take it you're a Lady Gaga fan.
Very much so.
Hell yeah. I love it. Oh, that is so cool. You know what? It's how you live your life. You celebrate this big MSG show. You go sing, have a good time. Live it up in New York. I love it. Number 2, best thing about being a dad.
All of it. It's the best thing in the world.
Next question. Is there a tattoo you regret?
Well, the one I did regret, I covered it up. So underneath this giant front piece is a tattoo I did not like at all. And that's kind of like where I'm at now, is I don't have a lot of room for new tattoos. So I'm just covering up the ones I don't care for anymore.
You're like, I'm done with this one. New one up there.
Yeah, just put another sticker on it.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen PCO do?
Oh my God. I mean, I'll give you like a top 3.
Okay.
So when he did the dive into nobody in Atlanta and he thought that there was 2 rows of padding and there was only one, and he blew his whole face open. I was on the other side of the ring holding up 2 guys, and he came around the corner just covered in blood. And I was just like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I'm like, "What?" And then he had to get like 100 stitches, internal and external, and it like looked like a Frankenstein scar on his forehead. And the next day, he was like, "It's pretty good for the gimmick, right?" I'm like, "Dude, what?" Like I would cry if my face like looked like that, but he didn't care at all. Another one was he was wrestling Matt Taven. I think it was in Toronto, and I think this was a Ring of Honor World Championship match, possibly. They had a spot where Vinny Marseglia he slid in the axe, and they were going to give him a drop toe hold onto the axe blade that was sticking straight up. And mind you, this was a real axe. PCO just headbutted the axe, and I have a photo on my phone where he just has a perfect line across his forehead that's bleeding. So he just tried to decapitate himself with an axe. And then there was the one at MSG where he took a power bomb from the ring onto the floor. And then he sat up and, no sold it. So those are like the top three that come off the top of my head, but I'm sure that there's more. I could do a whole podcast on crazy things that PCO has tried to convince me of.
There's a good podcast idea for you, because man, that axe one, I can't even fathom that whatsoever. But it's so cool because I've gotten to see PCO perform, now a lot live, and every single time I'm like, what the hell is he gonna do? And every single time he crosses like this new line where I'm like, damn, I had no idea PCO would do that or could do that. Thank you guys so much for watching the Brody King Q&A. See you next time.
That's a V for victory, everybody. The victory of all of those who got a cameo at F4W Online. Filmed this week on the shores of the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Don't miss out, everybody. I got more news for you. Let's make it quick. SmackDown, 2.29 million viewers on Fox. 0.57, 18 to 49. Show did a huge number. And as noted on the show last night, the Vince appearance did 2.5 million viewers, which is very, very large, which you would expect given like every news show promoted that he would be on SmackDown. So we got a lot of free publicity. But the main event with Riddle and Randy Orton, 2.8 million viewers, which is sky high. And then if you watched Raw, you saw the follow-up to Riddle doing that sky-high number. Rampage on Friday, in its normal time slot, 331,000 viewers and a .10. An appalling, horrible number. And I think the 1-minute version of the 30-minute version, to me, is let's see what happens Wednesday and Friday. And actually, the following Wednesday and Friday as well, because based on Game 4 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I don't think this Wednesday show is going to do very well. And I would not freak out yet, but I also wouldn't freak out too much now. I guess that means I wouldn't freak out yet, right? But that's a horrible number, dude. That's a horrible number.
Well, yeah.
We've also got an update on...
Jesus Christ.
Yes. Well, we got a delay, Mike, and so if I don't hear anything, I'm going to get talking. I don't know. Why don't you disconnect and reconnect and see if the thing goes away?
Can I just disconnect
Otherwise, we're going to be talking over each other all day.
Do something else? God.
Disconnect and reconnect. We'll see if it gets rid of this delay.
God.
It's not my fault. Not my fault. You hear him disconnect? He just disappeared into the ether. All right. Well, while he's reconnecting here, let's talk about Forbidden Door. So, this is not a spoiler because the match already took place, but Ishii has been added to the four-way for the AEW All-Atlantic title. So it'll be Miro versus Pac versus Ishii, and then the winner of Malachi Black and Penta. And I'm not saying it's a spoiler, but the word is that Penta is not allowed to work this show, so that would indicate that Malachi Black is going to be the fourth person. in that All Atlantic Championship match. We have Moxley versus Tanahashi for the interim title. Jay White will be defending the title. It was announced today, as if we didn't know that already. But we don't know against who. It is to be determined. And that would be on Dynamite tomorrow. We'll find out who that's going to be. Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm for the women's title. Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy for the United States title, the IWGP United States title. We've got winner take all for the Ring of Honor tag team titles and the IWGP tag team titles. FTR versus the Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb versus Roppongi Vice. And Chris Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, Sammy Guevara will face Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. And the only other thing I want to say before we test Mike's delay is tomorrow on the show, they have announced that Bryan Danielson is going to be there, and he is going to address Forbidden Door, and he is going to address Blood and Guts. And Bryan Danielson has not been seen since the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, where he suffered an injury in the Anarchy in the Arena. I want to make sure I get that right. And he has not been seen since. We'd initially been told 1 to 2 weeks, and then it was longer than that. And nobody will say what the injury is, but, I think we all know what it probably is. But it's not confirmed. But what I can tell you is that even though they were talking about Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. on Rampage, which was taped last Wednesday, and even though he was announced for the show this coming Wednesday, the impression that I was given as of today is that he is not cleared, and he might not be cleared for a while. And so he could show up tomorrow, and they announce the match, and he does it with Zack Sabre Jr., but at this point, I'm thinking that the match is not going to take place. And I'm also thinking that he may not be doing Blood and Guts. But that is not confirmed. So I guess we'll find out more when he does his promo. I think one way or the other, we're going to know tomorrow when he does his promo. Thoughts on any of this, Mike? How's that delay?
I don't know how the delay is, but I know this is not going to be good news for you. This is very bad news for you. You with your family out there on vacation. You ever see the movie Cape Fear, Brian? You ever see that movie?
Yes.
Man comes up.
I actually haven't, but I know of it.
Tortures that man on vacation. And Zack Sabre Jr., not doing anything right now. Going to want to come to this country, and he may be on a plane right now, Brian. And if he finds out that Bryan Danielson is unavailable for the beating and the stretching that he wants to lay out while he is in America, he may want something else to do. And who better than maybe pay a visit to the guy that called him chicken chest over all of those years? I would be aware, Bryan Alvarez. I would stay aware.
Well, Mike, first off, I have not referred to him as chicken chest in quite a while because he took my advice and did some push-ups. Yes. But I will not be in the area for that pay-per-view. But do you know who will be across the street from the Forbidden Door pay-per-view? Our own filthy Tom Lawler, former New Japan Strong Openweight champion, competing in the G1 this year. And I can't think of a better match than Zack Sabre Jr. versus filthy Tom Lawler on Forbidden Door. A much better match, I might add, than myself and Zack Sabre Jr.
I like that. I like
I
that much more than the other one you were kicking around, which was, of course, Filthy against Dr. Luther, which I still don't know how that really is going to be something that people care about. But, we are going to get...
Well, if there's ever a match I want where I can get my revenge, it'll be against Dr. Luther.
Well, how about against Toru Yano, who we're going to get to see Filthy against? Look at all of these dream matches that Filthy can knock out during this G1. In one hand, Kazuchika Okada, the greatest professional wrestler all time, all anybody's life right now, except if you're a Roman Reigns fan. It's Kazuchika Okada. And then on this other hand, Toru Yano. I mean, two fantasies come true if you're Filthy Tom, and he is going to spend his entire paycheck on nothing but Pride Never Die merchandise. He's going to come home looking like Generalissimo Takada. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, if you want to know, I asked Filthy Tom, the first thing I asked him, in fact, on the show after he did a bunch of lewd intros, was which match he was more excited to have, the match with Okada or the match with Yano. And so if you want the answer, Filthy for Daily, which went up today. And by the way, there will be no Lance Storm show today because of travel issues. Lance will be up at 10:30 Pacific, 1:30 Eastern on Wednesday. So that's when you can get all of the Lance thoughts. By the way, also after this show today, we're live, pal. You know who's going to be live on We're Live, pal?
Who?
Me.
Who? Really?
Me.
Is there going to be
Yes.
a delay?
There is going to be a delay. So will you talk about something right now so I can try and fix this delay? Why don't you talk about your thoughts on Forbidden Door? I'll be right back.
I love it. I love it. Anyway, yeah, I guess my thoughts on Forbidden Door. I haven't seen today's match between Clark Connors and Tomohiro Ishii, which has now put Ishii in the All-Atlantic four-way that's going to be taking place. But that's going to be a great match, and I know yesterday I lamented the lack of singles matches, and I was curious as to what singles matches are going to be on this show. But that four-way with Pac involved is probably going to be pretty awesome. Okada not being on the show, obviously disappointing. Yes?
Okada.
What about Okada?
I'm testing the delay. Testing the delay. Yeah.
How is it?
Yeah.
Is there an echo?
Test.
Test. What?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
When I say one, you say two. When I say one, you say two. Get ready.
All right.
1.
2.
Golly, that's still a long time. Well, who cares? Keep going. Keep talking.
How are you trying to fix this on the air right now exactly? Like you're just like mashing some buttons together? Okay.
I reconnected. Yeah, it's the easiest way to do it.
Oh, my God. You know, we got a whole Raw review that we're supposed to be getting to here. Are we going to be doing that? Or
well, good. You won't say anything during the Raw review. That'll make life a lot easier for me.
Can I just tap out altogether and just go get something to eat or drink now? You know, can I do that?
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna reconnect everything after this break, so we'll solve that problem here in a moment. But hey, Kushida's back, everybody. That's exciting. Kushida returned to New Japan. Yeah, he confronted Taiji Ishimori. So that should be an exciting match. Kushida and Taiji Ishimori.
Shouldn't it though?
Maybe we could see that.
Do you have a rosin bag actually like sitting next to you? Or do you have like some sort of like, is there an actual Bryan Alvarez Kung Fu grip that you actually have?
I see you didn't point out how nice this room looks now that we've totally remodeled it. It no longer looks like some, cabin I've been relegated to. It looks beautiful.
Actually, it looks exactly like a cabin you've been relegated to, like somewhere where, look at all those like worked books. Like you've actually read any of those. You're just like hiding money in there.
Well, those are my books. It's my father-in-law's books.
But seriously, now that you're just working the grip, like, I mean, are you worried? Are you going back and forth? Are you worried about having like one huge arm by the time like the week is over here? Like, what do you like? I know how Dave does it because he's a maniac, but like, how do you?
Yeah,
adjust?
Dave and Tom both do it.
How do you adjust to having? Because he's a maniac too.
Okay, get out of here. We're gonna do Raw after the break. We're gonna get the show back on the road. Back in a moment. Observer Live.
What's up, everyone? It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with another commercial break. This time, here are highlights of my interview with Gail Kim. Take a look. You have an executive position in Impact Wrestling, and it's not every day. In fact, it's kind of unheard of to hear of an ex-female wrestler go in and take an executive position with a wrestling promotion. So I do kind of want to ask you about, what your role is within Impact Wrestling and what are some of those responsibilities, duties that you do for Impact?
Yeah, I mean, it was a natural progression for me because once I knew, I would say in my last couple of years of being a talent, it was, you become this veteran in the locker room. And so the girls really value your opinion. And so we always had producers and agents that guided us along the way. And it became in my last couple of years where the girls would ask the producer their feedback. And then they would ask me my feedback as well. It just happened naturally. And I love that. I love creativity in the ring. That's where my heart is in terms of matches and putting together these interesting, compelling matches, storylines, getting the fans emotion. And so, it was a running joke because Pat Kinney, Simon Diamond, used to be the girls' agent, like in my last couple of years, and he'd have these papers in his back pocket, and whenever he'd give us feedback, and then he'd go, "Here, Gail, since you want my job," right? He's like,
That's
"You can have my
amazing.
job in a couple of years once I get out," and we'd always laugh about it because we had a great relationship. And I mean, it eventually happened. And listen, I'm just so invested because I've been part of this division from day one. And I'm just like, now it's become, I'm like a proud mom because I don't have, I have stepgirls, but I don't have like little kids of my own. I have godchildren and nephews and all these things. But these girls are literally my heart in a sense, because when they accomplish things and they kill it, I'm having that high that I got as a talent for weeks on end, just as for them. I'm just like, it's so incredible. Like, I'm just so happy that you guys killed it. And it's a great feeling. So when it came to Slammiversary, I mean, this is probably our biggest pay-per-view to date, I would say, because it's such a huge momentous occasion, the 20th anniversary. And so there was no fighting for this. They just gave it to them because they believed in them and they knew that they could deliver. And, it's 5 former knockout world champions. I mean, I look at that graphic and I get goosebumps. I'm like, these girls are all so fierce and so competitive and so talented. I've already put the pressure on them to steal the show, but I have no doubt that they can. And I'm just so looking forward to it.
Well, we're back here on the show, and thank goodness we just have to do the Raw report, where Mike doesn't have to say a lot, because for some reason my internet is bottom of the barrel right now. We usually get 1,000 up and 1,000 down, and right now it's 12 up and 1 down. No, 12 down and 1 up.
It's a miracle.
And of course, when I send
this.
everything,
wow,
yeah, I send it with the upload, obviously. So 1 up is probably the reason for this delay right here. And I have no idea why it's so bad, because it was blazing last night. Well, let me get this Raw report done, Mike, and then I'll shut up and you can talk about it, and we'll try not to actually talk to each other today. That might make life easy. So the show opened up with Bianca coming out, and she announced that Rhea Ripley, who she was supposed to be facing at the pay-per-view, will not be medically cleared in time for the pay-per-view. So I don't know what that means, other than she won't be medically cleared in time for the pay-per-view. But they had no other information. They had no nothing. And I absolutely am not reporting that it is a concussion. But I can say that normally when they won't tell you what it is, that's usually what it is. But it could be anything. But she's off the show. So as a result, they did literally the only thing that they know how to do when they need a challenger for a women's belt, and that is a multi-woman match. This, I believe, is the 5th time in a row that they have needed a challenger for a women's title, and they have just done a random multi-person match to determine who is going to be in it. So it ended up with Carmella, Liv Morgan, Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Alexa. Last week, they announced that Asuka and Becky would be in a qualifier for the Money in the Bank ladder match. We announced it, I think Mike probably ran it down yesterday on the show, because it was one of the only 2 things announced for Raw was Becky Lynch versus Asuka in a qualifier. But they just end up in this match right here. So Becky has the win, but you know how it is in these multi-person matches. Carmella hits a super kick out of nowhere, and Carmella wins. And so it is Bianca versus Carmella for the title at the pay-per-view. The last time we saw Carmella in a match, it was the second night of WrestleMania, and then her only other appearance was doing like some 24/7 gimmick backstage where she was, doing something with Truth of all people. But now she's back and in the championship picture. Then, this is the best part of the show. Becky goes up to Adam Pearce, and Becky says, I was screwed out of that match. I should be in Money in the Bank. Adam Pearson says, well, let's do a match between you and Asuka, and the winner of that match will be entered into Money in the Bank. And Becky says, that's great. And then Adam Pearce goes, and that match will be tonight. And Becky's all angry and furious. So literally, they announced a match a week in advance. And then, the night of the show, they shot the angle for the match where the participants pretended that they didn't know that they were going to be in the match on this show. That's a new one. We had a Roman Reigns Riddle recap. Riddle then came out and did this promo. And he talked about how he'd let down Randy, he'd let down himself, he'd let down the fans, the whole 9 yards. And he is now going to be in a Money in the Bank qualifying match against Omos. Now, for those of you that have not listened to any of the shows over the last couple of days, the quick and dirty here is that Matt Riddle and Roman Reigns did 2.8 million viewers for their match on SmackDown. The highest rated thing on the show at 9:40 in the evening, like 20 minutes before Rampage started, where Rampage did a horrible number. 2.8 million viewers. He can no longer challenge for the title. He literally says in his promo, I cannot challenge for the title again unless I win Money in the Bank. If I win Money in the Bank, I can cash in on Roman Reigns. They have a built-in storyline here. It's a killing a stipulation, but it's still a built-in WWE storyline. He did a huge number with Roman Reigns. And what do they do after all that? Well, he gets in the ring with Omos. He is squashed for 3 minutes and 54 seconds. He is tree slammed. He is pinned in the middle of the ring. He is tree slammed again afterwards. Seth Rollins then dances down to the ring, and he lays out Riddle with a curb stomp. You couldn't have made Riddle into a bigger geek coming off that match with Roman Reigns than they did here. And that's the follow-up to that match on SmackDown that did such a great number. Theory does a segment. He's burying John Cena, so clearly it's going to probably be John Cena versus Theory. I presume it's SummerSlam. And Lashley shows up behind him. In fact, I know it's SummerSlam because it's going to be Lashley versus Theory at Money in the Bank. Lashley shows up, sprays him with baby oil. Theory's upset. He goes backstage. He says, listen, I will give Lashley a shot at this United States title if he can win a 3-man gauntlet tonight against 3 mystery opponents. We had Angelo Dawkins versus Jey Uso. I made a bet with Mike, I believe, for $5. I don't actually know if he even accepted the bet, but I know other people had accepted the bet. I was sure that Angelo Dawkins was going to lose to Jey Uso on this show tonight. It makes no sense for him to do so, but you know what? This show doesn't make any sense. I was sure that he was going to lose, and in fact, Angelo Dawkins beat Jey Uso. So there you go. 7-minute match. It was fine. Then we had the best thing on the show. There's a couch backstage. And sitting on the couch playing his guitar is Elias. And in walks Ezekiel. And he sits down on the other side of the couch. And these two men have a discussion. And they actually did an incredible job with whatever special effects they did to get both of these guys on the couch with each other. Because it's not even like I'm old, so like in the old days, you would have to have like a static shot, and then you'd film one guy's thing, and then you'd film the other guy's thing, and then you'd put the two static shots together to make them look like they're talking to each other. This was a shot where they're slowly zooming in on both of these guys. So, technology is significantly better nowadays than it was when I was, doing video production in 1993. But anyway, they're both sitting there talking, and then at the end, they actually do a fist bump, and then they go to the ring, and there's Elias in the ring for his concert. And he's about to do his concert, and Kevin Owens interrupts. By the way, no notes on this. I just remember all of this. Kevin Owens comes out and he goes, dude, I'm not going to stand for this. This is ridiculous. I'm not falling for that thing on the couch. That's movie magic. This is ridiculous. He goes in the ring. They have a quick kerfluffle. Somehow the beer doesn't fall off. Elias gives him the jumping knee. Hits him with the gimmick guitar, lays him out. Kevin Owens goes backstage. He's so furious. He's angry. He's cutting this promo backstage. He goes, I'll face Elias. I'll face Ezekiel. Dude, I'd face their other brother, Elrond, I believe was his name. And as he's doing this promo, up walks Ezekiel. And Kevin Owens can't believe his eyes, and he starts pulling his hair out, and I keep thinking Elrond because it's a long story. I still get Scientology stuff in the mail. But this is not something I want to talk about on the air. That lead me down a wrong path. But anyway, he's going to face one of these geeks next week on the show. And listen, I thought that when they did this whole thing, we'd get one moment where during a match with Ezekiel, Kevin Owens would go backstage, Elias would hit him with the guitar, and that would be the payoff. Bro, this is one of those rare examples in WWE where what they did is miles better than what I expected. This has gone from something that was so horrible to easily the best thing on this show. So next week, Kevin Owens versus L. Ron Hubbard. If L. Ron loses, he must give up Scientology. If he wins, Kevin Owens must become a Scientologist. That's actually not that's not the idea, but I think it's pretty good. Bobby Lashley in a gauntlet match. He beats Chad Gable. He beats Chad Gable in 6 minutes. Then he goes 8 minutes with Otis, but then Chad Gable runs in for the DQ. They beat the guy down. They leave him for dead. Obviously, the last guy is Theory. He gets in there. He beats on Lashley for 2 minutes. He goes for his finish. And, bro, the cradle that Lashley did off this finish was so awesome. And he pins Theory, and it is now going to be Lashley versus Theory for the U.S. title at Money in the Bank. We had a Miz TV with AJ Styles. Gist of it is AJ Styles says, you're just trying to make me mad. I'm not going to snap. Then he snaps, beats up Miz. Gets jumped by Ciampa. They have a 4-minute match. 4 minutes is as good as you're going to get in 4 minutes. AJ beats him with a phenomenal forearm. And then Miz tries to hit the ring. And in his suit, AJ Styles lays out Miz with the Styles Clash. So apparently it's going to be Miz against AJ Styles. Whatevs. Veer Mahan promo, nothing but what chance. He's trying to get over his catchphrase, Fear Veer. I don't picture that one getting over all that big. And then the main event, Money in the Bank qualifying match, Asuka versus Becky Lynch, 12 minutes. They had a really, really good 12-minute match. Great wrestling. Asuka boots her in the head, pins her, clean in the middle of the ring. There's no interference. There's no distraction. The better woman won. Asuka is in Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch is freaking out. I don't know where it's going, but at least it's something they're doing with Becky Lynch. Ultimately, she's going to win the title to do the match with Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, but that's a long time from now. So they can take their time with this one. And that was the show. One of those rare shows where I expect the third hour to die. But, dude, that third hour was the best hour of the show by miles. And I didn't even mention the Vince McMahon cameo where he strutted down to the ring, tried to get into the ring, almost fell down, then had to do a silly jump to show that he was agile, but he can only jump off one leg and not both of them. And then he does a quick promo about John Cena, tries to get out of the ring, and then he almost falls down again, and so he wants to show his agility by jumping off the second ring step, which they cut away from as quickly as possible in case he, exploded into debris. This bloke's out of his mind.
Yes, he is.
Any thoughts, Mike?
Well, when is Charlotte scheduled to come back? Because there's 2 spots open in both the men's and the women's ladder matches, and we got Aaliyah and Shotzi are going to fill 1 spot, but we still have 2 more remaining. You're at a lack of talent right now, and Lacey's back, she's in there, and Carmella's getting a title shot, so she's out of the way. I mean, could Dana Brooke get in there because now that Doudrop has got the 24/7 title? Like, I mean, is Dana Brooke going to get her? That's as close as she can get to a gold watch in that company as being allowed to
Dana,
perform on a Money in
Nikki
the Bank ladder
Ash.
match. Well, but Nikki
Yeah,
Ash
lots of
is in the same
possibilities.
spot. I can see her chasing around Doudrop.
You know who it should be, Mike?
Who should it be, Brian?
After a long, awkward, delayed pause,
Yes.
why, it should be Bailey.
Pam? Really? Are we going to get Bailey back?
Oh, it's time.
I'd be happy
She
with
should
that.
be back any time, dude. It's been over a year. It's been plenty of time.
I'm good with it. Good with it. What about the dudes?
Could put Bailey in there. What about the dudes? Are there more spots for the dudes? I'm not even paying attention to Money in the Bank. I just did a full Raw review. I couldn't tell you half the people that are in this Money in the Bank ladder match. Maybe I'll do that after the break since we got a delay. Back in a moment. Observer Live.
What's up, everyone? It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with another commercial break. This time, here are highlights of my interview with Gail Kim. Take a look.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster, but I feel like wrestling in general is a roller coaster, to be honest. And I've seen, like you said, many managements change and, who's in charge. And we've always kind of been this little underdog, right? And trying to prove to everyone that they were the best wrestling product on TV. And right now, we went through a little bit of a negative period where I think fans just wanted to hate us. And now we feel like it's really turned around. I get comments all the time from people. I respect their opinions, from fans to people in the business. You guys have the best product on TV right now. The storylines, the characters, the wrestlers have so much talent and everyone's being utilized. You really look at that roster and you go, okay, everyone's part of this show. It's incredible. And we really do just come together because we feel like the underdog sometimes to produce. I mean, I think, in my opinion, 2022, we've been killing every pay-per-view consistently. So I feel like Slammiversary is going to be no different. I think everyone would think that it's an easy transition and it was a natural progression, but I wouldn't say it was easy because being a wrestler in the ring is completely different from being a producer. And so at the beginning, it took a while for me to be able to not want to jump through the screen to control everything. And, I'm like, why can't I just do it like this or, execute something, that maybe they didn't get because I'm a perfectionist by nature. And I remember because I asked Jeff Jarrett for the job because he was the management at the time running the place. And he said, yeah, you can become a producer. And I said, okay, can I shadow Dutch or something, another producer so that I kind of know what it entails. And he said yes, but I got thrown on a live pay-per-view my first time. It was the scariest thing ever. And I don't remember what happened, but I'm sure it was terrible. But, you just grow and just like I was thrown to the wolves, like I said, in my WWE debut, it was kind of the same thing in that regard. But I had people supporting me, people sitting next to me and, helping me out and guiding me along the way. And now I also am in talent relations with D'Lo Brown. We're like work husband, work wife. So we're there for talent predominantly, right? So it's great. I have a relationship with the men as well as the women.
Thank you guys as always for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this compilation. If you did, go ahead and let me know. You can follow me on Twitter and or on Instagram @_ Denise Salcedo, and I'll see you on the next commercial break.
Show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I hope there's not one of those deals where, during busy periods, they're going to slow this internet every day. Like, every day at noon, it's going to be slow. That'd be brutal for this program, but I'm going to do my best. But here is the Money in the Bank, for those of you that are unaware. Bianca Belair versus Carmella for the Raw Women's title. Ronda Rousey versus Natty for the SmackDown Women's title. The Usos versus the Street Profits for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. Theory versus Bobby Lashley for the U.S. title. And the Money in the Bank ladder matches, everybody. On the men's side, we have Seth Rollins. I refuse to call him Seth freaking Rollins, which everybody has to anytime they mention his name on WWE, which is one of those things that drives me mad. Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Omos, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn, and 3 men to be announced. And then for the women, we have Lacey Evans, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, the winner of Ali and Shotzi, and then 2 more participants to be determined, Mike.
Yes, I believe it's only two men that are going to be remaining after Sami Zayn, but Riddick Moss, do you reward him with something like that? Put him in that type of match? Balor
No,
or
according
Priest?
to this,
Is it 3?
it's the winner of Nakamura and Zayn and 3 others after that.
Good Lord. Good Lord. Well,
Yeah, you could
Maybe.
actually just do a Money in the Bank match with less people. That'd probably be the easiest solution here, wouldn't it?
you could, but Corbin and McAfee, that's the one I'm most looking forward to on that show.
All right, everybody, we're out of time. Want to thank you all for listening today. Apologize for any technical difficulties. Hopefully those will be fixed by tomorrow. Mike, as always, callers and listeners, Twitch homies, everybody in the studio. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.